You ever get that feeling like you're being watched? Mark Zuckerberg mused, peering over the rim of his coffee cup at the bustling sidewalk outside the cafe. His colleague, a young, bright-eyed intern named Linda, nodded slightly. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? She replied, her gaze following the ceaseless flow of pedestrians. Mark took a sip of his coffee, his eyes lingering on a solitary figure hunched over a laptop in the shadow of an alley. The man looked out of place among the tech moguls and hipsters that typically frequented this area of San Francisco. His clothes were threadbare, and his eyes had the intense focus of someone who hadn't slept in days. Who do you think that guy is? He asked, curiosity piqued. Linda squinted, trying to get a better look. Dunno, she shrugged. Probably another programmer working on the next big thing. This city's full of 'em. The cafe's warm light spilled onto the sidewalk, throwing a stark contrast against the alley's darkness. Mark felt an inexplicable pull towards the stranger. He set down his cup, ignoring the untouched slice of apple pie Linda had convinced him to order. I'm going to go see, he said, standing up abruptly. Linda's eyes widened. What? Why? I don't know, Mark said, a hint of excitement in his voice. Call it a hunch. He stepped out into the cool evening air, the scent of freshly baked bread from the nearby bakery mixing with the faint metallic smell of the city. The cobblestone street was slick with the remnants of a recent rain shower, and the cafe's jazz music faded as the door closed behind him. He approached the figure, who remained oblivious to his presence, engrossed in the glow of the computer screen. Hey, Mark said tentatively, his voice echoing faintly in the alley. The man jolted, slamming his laptop shut. Don't steal it, man, the young man said, his voice thick with exhaustion and suspicion. I'm not here to take your stuff, Mark assured him. I just wanted to talk. The man eyed him warily, then sized him up, recognizing the iconic hoodie and jeans combo. You're that Facebook guy, aren't you? Yeah, Mark said with a small smile. My name's Mark. The young man's eyes grew even larger. What the hell do you want? I noticed you coding, Mark said, gesturing to the laptop. What are you working on? The man looked down at his closed laptop, then back up at Mark. Just trying to keep my head above water, he said, his voice filled with a mix of defensiveness and defeat. What's it to you? Mark studied him for a moment, noticing the way his hands trembled slightly. Look, he said, his tone softening. I know what it's like to have a vision, to chase a dream. Maybe I can help. The young programmer's expression shifted from skepticism to curiosity. How? He asked, his voice cracking. Mark took a deep breath. How about a job? The young man's eyes shot up, incredulous. What, you're offering me a job? If what I'm seeing here is any indication of your skills, then yes, Mark said, nodding at the laptop. I could use someone with your talent at my company. The programmer, who introduced himself as Alex, couldn't hide his surprise. His eyes searched Mark's, looking for some hint of a prank or a catch. Why me? He finally asked. Because, Mark said, leaning in slightly, I know what it's like to start with nothing, to have an idea that keeps you up at night, to believe that you can change the world with a few lines of code, and I think you have that spark. Alex stared at him for a moment, then laughed, a short, disbelieving bark. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious, Mark said. We all start somewhere, and if you're willing to take the risk, I can give you the opportunity to make something of yourself. Alex's laughter died down, his expression growing contemplative. Rain began to fall again, light droplets that grew heavier by the second. But Mark didn't move. He waited, watching as the young man weighed the offer in his mind. The sound of the raindrops hitting the cobblestone grew louder, the smell of damp earth and concrete filling the air. Finally, Alex spoke. What's the catch? Mark reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. No catch, he said, offering it to him. Just come to the address tomorrow. We'll talk more then. Alex took the card with trembling fingers, his eyes never leaving Mark's. Okay, he murmured, disbelief etched into every syllable. Good, Mark said with a firm nod. Now, let's get you out of this rain. He signaled to a nearby Uber which pulled up to the curb. I'll take you to a place where you can get cleaned up, get some rest. The ride was mostly silent, the two men lost in their own thoughts as the car wove through the slick streets. Mark watched as the rain blurred the city lights outside the window, wondering what kind of future lay ahead for Alex. When they arrived at the shelter, Mark stepped out with him, handing over a few bills for the driver before turning to the young programmer. "See you tomorrow," Mark said, giving Alex a firm pat on the shoulder. "And don't be late." Alex nodded, clutching the business card tightly in his hand. "Thank you," he managed to say, before disappearing into the welcoming warmth of the shelter. As Mark climbed back into the car, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. There was something about Alex's raw talent and resilience that reminded him of his own beginnings. And if he could give someone like Alex a chance, maybe, just maybe, they could create something truly extraordinary together. The car pulled away from the curb, leaving the alley behind, but Mark knew that this encounter was only the beginning of a story that had the potential to change lives.